This pandemic has tested leaders. It has tested institutions. Governments have been called callous, unprepared, insensitive, and a lot of other things. Every death is one too many. And on that parameter, you could say every government, every leader has failed. But before you judge your government, which you have every right to in a democracy, I want to share with you the story of a so-called superpower. Among the richest countries in the world, with supposedly the strongest institutions, the story of America, its pandemic response was a train wreck. Driving it were two men who did not see eye to eye. One of them is out of office, the former president. Another has become a bit of a cult figure. Dr. Anthony Fauci is America's top infectious disease expert, and he's been around seemingly forever, serving seven US presidents, from Ronald Reagan to Joe Biden. But last year was his toughest assignment, the biggest pandemic of his lifetime, and a difficult president in the White House. For Donald Trump, science was a matter of perspective. And this put him at odds with Dr. Fauci. They clashed on masks, on social distancing, lockdowns, basically everything to do with the pandemic. Despite all the differences, though, Trump never fired him. But all the wrangling between these two men proved to be very costly. More than 300,000 Americans died from the Wuhan virus in 2020. We could see the Fauci-Trump relationship was strained. We could see Fauci was unhappy with the president's response. But now we have proof. More than 800 pages of emails written by Fauci himself. Now, these are not leaks, these emails. They were obtained by American media using the Freedom of Information Act. It works a bit like the RTI here in India, the Right to Information Act. You can obtain documents of public importance using this act. So we have Fauci's emails, 800 pages of them. What do they say? They reveal panic and confusion. These emails were written between March and April last year. Still early days in the pandemic, Fauci was getting nearly 1,000 emails every day. From corporate bosses, sports leagues, Republicans, Democrats, even movie stars, they were all writing to him. They were all confused because the president said everything was fine. Yet all the evidence suggested otherwise. Here's a sample. An email written by a senior official at the US Army's Medical Command. It was on the 14th of April. Nearly 3,000 Americans died from the Wuhan virus on that day, the day on which this email was sent. So the pandemic had well and truly arrived in the US. But look at the questions being raised by this official. Can the virus be contracted from a corpse? Are masks and gloves truly effective? The US Army doctors had zero idea about the virus. Did the Pentagon not release a guidance? Did the physicians not trust that guidance? We don't know. But most countries had such basic questions answered on their government websites. So why were these people still reaching out? Dr. Fauci has an explanation. Dr. Fauci has an explanation. He said, and I'm quoting, "I was getting every single kind of question, mostly people who were a little bit confused about the mixed messages that were coming out of the White House and wanted to know what's the real scoop." Turns out Donald Trump's own allies wanted to know the real scoop. A senior Republican congressman wrote to Fauci with one message: keep being a science truth teller. But science was a scarce commodity in the Trump White House. In these emails, we find more evidence of this. One official at the Department of Health pitched the most outrageous alternative to PPE kits. Doggy cones. I'm not making this up. What some people call the Elizabethan collar. This is what it looks like on your screen. Imagine the suggestion coming from the Department of Health. It really sums up America's response in a nutshell. There was no roadmap for lockdowns or for reopening. America's pandemic response was basically an email conversation. Ask Dr. Fauci was the answer to every question. But was he right all the time? No, he wasn't. Let me give you some examples. First, on hydroxychloroquine, HCQ, a Republican lawmaker wrote to Dr. Fauci asking him whether HCQ was effective. Fauci replied, "Almost certainly yes." Well, 1 year later, we can confidently say that he was almost certainly wrong. Amid all these suggestions, taunts and praises, Fauci found an unlikely ally. Chinese health official George Gao. They exchanged multiple emails. Most of them reveal a warm relationship. Here's a sample. This was written by Gao to Fauci on the 8th of April. I saw some news that you're being attacked by some people. Hope you're well under such an irrational situation. Fauci replied, all is well, despite some crazy people in the world. This is around the same time that Donald Trump turned up his attacks on China. But it seems the man who was advising him still had friends in Beijing. And that sums up the whole story. Broken communication, a lack of trust, and a failure of institutions. I'll end with one email sent by Dr. Fauci on the 21st of April. This is his response to a White House press briefing getting cancelled. This is what he said. Yikes, that would make 4 days in a row without a press conference for me. He followed it up with a couple of emojis. It really is tragic comedy. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.